Diane Walsh fell asleep while signing the contract to sell her own house. The pen drifted from the signature line and left a blue mark across the bottom of the page. Her older daughter, Marla, caught her wrist before the pen reached the tablecloth. "Mom is tired," Marla said. Erin stood inside the doorway with her overnight bag still over one shoulder. She had driven 2 hours after receiving a message that the sale had become urgent. No one had told her that papers would be signed that afternoon. Diane was 69. 6 months earlier, she had driven herself to Erin's house, corrected a cashier who returned the wrong change, and spent an evening winning every round of a word game. Now her chin rested against her chest. Marla removed the contract and told the real estate agent they would finish later. Erin knelt beside her mother. "Mom, can you look at me?" Diane opened her eyes slowly. For several seconds, she seemed not to recognize her younger daughter. Then she whispered Erin's name and asked why strangers were taking her kitchen. Marla explained that their mother's memory had declined rapidly. She had arranged a place at Brookfield Care Center and accepted a cash offer on the house. Closing was scheduled for Friday. "She agreed to all of this," Marla said. "She just has bad hours now." Erin was 39 and worked as a school nurse. She had seen children become drowsy from allergy medicine, pain medication, and accidental double doses. Diane's confusion frightened her, but something else did too. Her mother's breathing was slow. Her pupils were heavy. A plastic medication cup sat beside the contract. Inside it was a peach-colored tablet with an imprint Erin did not recognize. "Hi, I'm Ethan Cole, and this is Ethan After Dark, where I tell stories of betrayal, family secrets, revenge, and sweet justice. Now back to the story." Marla was 45 and sold residential property. She lived 15 minutes from Diane and had taken over most daily responsibilities after Diane slipped on ice the previous winter. Erin lived in another county with her husband and worked weekdays at a public middle school. She called her mother often and visited twice a month, but Marla handled the appointments, groceries, and bills. That difference had become a quiet accusation. Whenever Erin offered advice, Marla reminded her who had spent the night in the emergency room. Whenever Erin questioned an expense, Marla sent a photograph of a grocery receipt or prescription bag. Erin knew her sister was tired. Marla's marriage had ended badly, and she had moved into Diane's spare room while rebuilding her real estate business. Caring for their mother gave her stability and a place to live. 3 months earlier, Marla began reporting memory problems. Diane misplaced keys, repeated questions, and once left a burner on. Erin urged a full evaluation. Marla said the family doctor had already confirmed cognitive decline. Then the house went on the market. Marla explained that Brookfield required a large deposit and that Diane's savings would not cover long-term care. The cash buyer offered less than market value but promised a quick closing with no repairs. The offer was $318,000. A similar house on the same street had recently sold for $402,000. Marla said the difference reflected the aging roof, the outdated wiring, and the certainty of a fast payment. Erin asked why they had not obtained a second offer. Marla said every delay consumed money Diane needed for care. The lower price became another form of pressure because questioning it could be described as denying their mother safety. Erin had objected by phone. Marla accused her of protecting a future inheritance while refusing to do the daily work. The accusation landed because part of Erin feared it might be true. She wanted her mother safe, but she also wanted the familiar house to remain unchanged while someone else carried the burden. Now Diane could not remain awake long enough to sign her name. The house mattered, but Erin's first question was no longer about the sale. She needed to know what was inside the medication cup. Marla picked up the cup before Erin could examine it. "Her evening medication is all on the list," she said. She opened a binder containing appointment summaries, bank statements, a durable power of attorney, and a cognitive screening score. Diane had performed poorly on the screening 6 weeks earlier. The notes described disorientation, weak short-term recall, and difficulty managing medication. Marla also showed Erin 3 videos. In one, Diane could not remember the month. In another, she asked where her late husband had parked the car, though he had been gone for 8 years. The third showed her struggling to button a sweater. The evidence was painful and convincing. The videos also showed only what Marla chose to record. Erin noticed that each one began after Diane was already confused. None showed the hour before it, the medication she had taken, or how long the episode lasted. When Erin asked for longer clips, Marla said she had been documenting symptoms for doctors, not producing evidence for a trial. Dr. Shah said she should not live alone, Marla said. Did he diagnose dementia? He said the pattern was consistent with it. That was not the same answer, but Marla moved on. She explained that the power of attorney allowed her to complete the sale if Diane could not sign. The buyer had already wired a deposit. Brookfield was holding a room only until Friday. You arrived today, Marla said. I have been watching this happen for months. Erin asked for the medication list. Marla gave it to her. It included medicine for blood pressure, cholesterol, and arthritis. It also listed a mild sleep aid to be taken when needed. The peach tablet was gone from the cup. What did you just remove? Erin asked. The sleep medicine she already took. Then why was another tablet in the cup? Marla's face hardened. Because I know how to give our mother her pills. You do not get to walk in and turn exhaustion into an accusation. Marla had documents, videos, medical notes, and months of first-hand experience. Erin had seen one tablet for only a few seconds. Their Aunt Celia came over that evening. Celia had already packed Diane's books and labeled several boxes for donation. When Erin raised concerns, Celia defended Marla. Your sister has put her life on hold, she said. Diane has good moments, but good moments do not make her safe. Celia had witnessed Diane wander into the yard after midnight. Marla had found her near the road wearing slippers. That incident had convinced the family that residential care was necessary. Erin called Dr. Ravi Shah with Diane's permission. He confirmed that Diane had shown serious confusion during her last 2 visits. Blood work had ruled out several common causes, and he had referred her to a neurologist. The appointment was still 3 weeks away. Did you prescribe a sedative? Erin asked. Dr. Shah named the mild sleep aid on the list. He had prescribed nothing stronger. Marla interrupted from across the room and reminded Erin that Brookfield might give different medication after admission. Erin pointed out that Diane had not been admitted yet. Celia asked them to stop arguing in front of their mother. Diane woke near midnight and appeared clearer. She knew where Erin worked and asked about 2 students whose names she remembered from a previous visit. 10 minutes later, she forgot that they had spoken. The fluctuation could support Erin's suspicion, could also support Marla's claim. Erin sat beside the packed boxes and wondered whether professional habit had made her see a medication problem where there was only a painful disease. Then Diane reached for her hand. Please do not let her give me the pink one, she whispered. Erin photographed every medication bottle and wrote down each pill's color and imprint. She found no pink or peach tablet on the approved list. The next morning, Diane was alert enough to make tea. Erin recorded a short video with her permission. Diane identified the date, explained why the house was being sold, and said she did not want to leave before seeing a neurologist. Erin sent the video to Celia and Dr. Shah. Marla dismissed it as a lucid interval. She sent a new video taken 2 hours later. Diane was slumped in a chair and could not name the current president. This is why 10 good minutes prove nothing, Marla said. Erin searched the trash for the missing tablet but found nothing. She checked the weekly pill organizer. Every compartment was empty because Marla had already refilled it. The approved sleep medicine could cause morning drowsiness, especially in an older adult. Dr. Shah agreed to review the dosage, but he warned Erin not to stop prescribed medication abruptly based on suspicion. Her first attempt had failed. The video did not establish that Diane was consistently capable, and the unknown tablet had disappeared. That afternoon, Marla took the house keys and left for a property inspection. She locked the medication binder in her car. Erin began cleaning the kitchen to stay near her mother. When she pulled open the drawer beneath the pill organizer, something scraped against the wood. A narrow piece of silver foil had fallen behind the drawer. It was the torn backing from a unit-dose medication strip. Most of the patient label was missing, but one corner still showed a prescription number and the letters MAR. Erin placed the foil in a clean envelope and called the pharmacy printed along its edge. The pharmacist, Noel Grant, could not disclose another patient's prescription. He could tell Erin how the packaging worked. Every unit dose strip carried the patient's name, prescription number, medication name, tablet description, and dispensing date. The foil was applied by the pharmacy and could not be transferred intact to another tablet. Erin read the visible prescription number. Noel became quiet. "Bring your mother in if she can travel safely," he said. "Have her bring every medication in the house." Marla returned before Erin could leave. When she saw the envelope, she said the foil belonged to an old prescription of her own that had fallen from a travel bag. "What prescription?" Erin asked. "That is private." "Was it the tablet in Mom's cup?" Marla said Erin was frightening a confused woman and interfering with her care. She threatened to have Erin removed from the house under the power of attorney. That threat settled Erin's next decision. She called Dr. Shah and described Diane's breathing, fluctuating awareness, and the unidentified tablet. He told her to bring Diane to the emergency department for an assessment. Marla objected, but Diane said she wanted to go. At the hospital, a toxicology screen detected clonazepam, a sedating medication that had never been prescribed to Diane. The tablet description matched the peach pill Erin had seen. It also matched the medication attached to the prescription number on the torn foil. The prescription belonged to Marla. Marla called the result an accident. She said one of her pills must have fallen into the organizer while she prepared both sets of medication at the kitchen table. One accidental dose could explain one bad evening, could not explain months of decline. The hospital kept Diane overnight and withheld any medication not verified by Dr. Shah. By morning, she was still tired but noticeably clearer. She remembered the hospital admission and described the house sale in detail. Dr. Shah reviewed his earlier notes. Before each cognitive screening, Marla had completed the medication reconciliation form. She never listed clonazepam. She also scheduled both appointments in the late afternoon, when Diane appeared most impaired. His first note had recommended repeating the screening after medication review and specialist testing. Marla's summary in the family binder omitted that recommendation. Instead, she highlighted the low score and the sentence stating that Diane should not manage complex finances alone. A cautious medical observation had become the foundation for immediate control. The screenings were real, but the doctor had interpreted them using false information. Marla had not forged the medical results. She had controlled the conditions under which they were produced. The hospital's safeguarding team postponed Diane's discharge and contacted an adult protection investigator. The pending house closing was flagged for review because Diane's capacity at the time of signing was now in question. Celia visited the hospital and watched Diane answer the investigator's questions. "Marla told us this was getting worse every day," Celia said afterward. "It may still be a medical problem," Erin replied. "But we do not know what Mom is like without someone else's medication." The toxicology result exposed the immediate danger. The family still needed to determine whether the drug had appeared once by accident or repeatedly by design. With Diane's written consent and the investigator present, Noel reviewed the family prescriptions. Marla had filled clonazepam every 30 days for 6 months. The quantity was larger than expected based on her stated occasional use. Twice, she requested early refills, claiming that medication had been lost during travel. Noel remembered asking whether she was storing it separately from Diane's medicine. Marla had said yes. He had accepted the answer. The pharmacy's packaging records showed that the torn foil came from a strip dispensed to Marla 9 days earlier. Could not have been old packaging from a forgotten travel bag. Noelle also found a note entered by a technician. Marla had asked whether clonazepam could make an older person appear forgetful. She described the question as concern about a friend. The note did not prove administration, but it removed another innocent explanation. Noelle admitted that he had noticed the early refills without connecting them to Diane's decline. He provided certified records to the investigator and agreed to testify about the packaging. He had something to lose. A review could question why the refill pattern had not triggered a stronger warning. He spoke anyway because silence would protect the person who had misused the medication, not the patient who had received it. Marla's accidental mix explanation was weakening. The strongest answer would have to come from Diane herself, through evidence her daughters could not reshape. The safeguarding physician recommended a segmented hair analysis. Blood could show recent exposure. Hair could preserve a longer record as it grew. The laboratory cautioned that the test could not identify an exact dose on an exact day. It could determine whether exposure was isolated or repeated across broad periods. Diane agreed. The results showed clonazepam exposure across 4 consecutive segments, representing roughly 4 months. The concentration increased in the most recent segment. That period began shortly before Marla reported the first dramatic memory problems. It covered both cognitive screenings and the night Diane wandered toward the road. An isolated dispensing mistake could no longer explain the pattern. The laboratory result agreed with the blood test. The blood test agreed with the pill imprint. The pill imprint agreed with Marla's prescription. The torn foil established that her current supply had been inside Diane's medication drawer. Diane also described a pattern she had been unable to explain before. Marla gave her a separate evening tablet on days when paperwork or property visits were scheduled for the following afternoon. Diane remembered being told it was for anxiety. She could not supply dates, so the investigator did not treat the memory as proof. It did, however, agree with the documented periods of greatest impairment. During 5 days of supervised care without clonazepam, Diane's alertness continued to improve. A neurologist found mild age-related memory changes but no basis for the severe decline described in the sale documents. Diane needed help organizing medication. She did not need someone else making every decision. The cash buyer withdrew after learning that the contract had been signed during a period of suspected drugging. The house would not close on Friday. Diane had not simply experienced one unusually good morning. Someone had been making her bad hours happen. The protection investigator obtained Marla's financial records through the legal process that followed. Her divorce had left her with more debt than Erin knew. She owed taxes from 2 weak years in real estate, carried large credit card balances, and faced a court deadline to refinance a property she had once owned with her former husband. The cash buyer for Diane's house was one of Marla's regular investors. A side agreement promised Marla a commission and repayment of money she claimed Diane owed for caregiving and home repairs. Together, those payments would solve her immediate crisis. The urgency surrounding Brookfield was also misleading. Diane's long-term care insurance would have covered an in-home aid during the specialist review period. Marla had received that information but never completed the application. Selling the house was not the only way to keep Diane safe. It was the only solution that produced cash quickly enough to solve Marla's problems. Marla had told herself that the house would eventually pass to both daughters anyway. She believed that living with Diane and managing her care entitled her to recover more than Erin. She also believed Brookfield was safer than the old house. Those beliefs allowed her to describe the sale as practical. Marla had performed real caregiving work. She had cleaned the house, driven Diane to appointments, and lost sales while staying home during difficult days. That history was why Erin had trusted her and why Celia defended her. It also gave Marla a grievance she could use to justify taking control without asking what Diane wanted. They did not explain why Diane had to be confused before she could agree to it. Marla had been exhausted, financially trapped, and resentful of a sister who could drive home after every visit. Erin understood each pressure. She also understood that Marla had turned their mother's vulnerability into a deadline and her medication into leverage. The confrontation took place in a hospital conference room with Diane's attorney, the protection investigator, Dr. Shah, and both daughters present. Celia attended at Diane's request. Marla began by saying the family had misunderstood an accidental medication mix-up. She insisted that the house sale remained necessary and that Diane's improvement did not erase months of unsafe behavior. Erin did not argue about the house first. She placed the torn foil on the table. Noelle's statement confirmed it came from Marla's prescription filled 9 days before Erin found it. Marla repeated that the tablet could have fallen into the wrong container. The hospital toxicology result established that Diane had taken the medication. The pharmacy records showed repeated early refills. The technician's note recorded Marla asking whether the drug could cause confusion in an older person. Marla said the question had been general. The investigator then compared the pharmacy refill dates with Marla's calendar entries. Each early refill preceded a major step in the sale, including the cognitive screening, the buyer's inspection, and the original contract meeting. Timing alone could be coincidence. Combined with the repeated exposure and concealed medication, it showed preparation rather than a single household error. Dr. Shah then explained that Marla had omitted the medication from every reconciliation form. His cognitive assessments had been performed without knowledge of a sedating drug. Finally, the investigator presented the hair analysis. For months of repeated exposure could not be explained by one dropped pill. Marla looked toward Celia. "You saw her outside at night," she said. "You know she was not safe." Celia's face tightened. "Now I know why she could barely stand." Marla turned to Erin and accused her of appearing only when property was involved. The accusation still hurt, but it no longer controlled the room. "I should have come sooner," Erin said. "That does not give you the right to make her disappear while she is still here." Diane had listened without interrupting. Her hands trembled when she reached for the power of attorney document. "You kept telling me I had already agreed," she said to Marla. "When I could not remember, I believed you." Marla began crying. She said she had needed help and believed the sale would protect everyone. Diane did not ask whether the explanation was sincere. She revoked the power of attorney and appointed an independent professional to manage any future property transaction. She requested that Marla leave the house before Diane returned. The final decision belonged to the woman everyone had been discussing as if she were absent. The investigation continued after Diane returned home. Marla faced allegations involving elder abuse, medication misuse, and attempted financial exploitation. Her real estate firm suspended her while the licensing board reviewed the side agreement. The house remained Diane's. She did not pretend that nothing had changed. A visiting nurse organized her prescriptions in tamper-evident pharmacy packs. Erin received medication alerts, and Celia handled grocery visits. Diane agreed to stop driving until her neurologist completed further testing. Erin also changed. She arranged her schedule so she could spend 2 nights a week at the house. She did not do it to prove that she was the better daughter. She did it because apologies about distance mattered only when they changed behavior. Marla sent several messages. Some expressed remorse. Others blamed exhaustion, debt, and the lack of help. Diane saved them without answering. There was no quick reconciliation. Understanding why Marla felt trapped did not make it safe to trust her. 6 weeks later, Diane decided that the house was larger than she wanted. She chose to sell it through an agent with no connection to either daughter and move into a smaller apartment near Erin. This time, she reviewed the listing herself. On the morning she signed it, she sat beside the same kitchen window where she had once fallen asleep over the first contract. A clear plastic medication cup rested near her tea. It contained only the tablets printed on her current list. Diane checked them one by one before taking them. Then she signed her name on the line, steady enough to keep every letter where she intended it to be. And that's the end of this one. If it kept you up, do me one favor, hit subscribe. I tell a new story every single night, and I'd love to have you back. Good night.